Before we finish, I wanted to give people an idea how an emotionally mature person would handle kind of emotions. So what are some of the ways, what is like the first step to relating to emotions a bit more wisely? If someone has to have an emotion that first pops up, how do they talk themselves through that kind of to reach its like natural endpoint?
Well, first, I appreciate you thinking that I'm emotionally mature.
You
Listen,
definitely are. You definitely are.
everyone's a work in progress, right? There's growth, there's potential for growth. And that is something, as a professor, that is something that I think is critical. So I can tell you how I handle an emotion. So I'll give you two examples. One is anger, and then one is like an anxiety or depression kind of thing. And so when I get angry, my son has done something, and I'm like, right. And I have to kind of be like, okay, I sense I'm getting really angry. Like I am about to lose it. And so what I need to do, so not count to 10 or anything, but it's like, okay, what am I going to do? I can either yell my head off, and I ask myself, do I think that's going to have any effect? No. Do I think it's going to damage? Yes. Can I do this? Can I withdraw? Can I storm out of the house and leave? I could do all that. Do I think it's going to have a good effect? No. So, I mean, one thing that I would encourage people to do is to think about the opposites, at least in those kind of relationships. I think that there's every relationship slightly different. But for me as a mom, I think, when he doesn't clean his lunchbox or does something, and I'm just like, "Brr," I'm like, I'm not making him lunch tomorrow. I think, no, 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 no. Now I'm going to make him a better lunch. Right. So now I actually go the opposite direction. And I'll tell you, the effect, it's very interesting, right? So not only that, the next day is good. I can give this to him as I really hope you have a good day. I hope you enjoy your lunch. I'd love it if you were to help me later and clean it out, right? I so instead of kind of packing on, I've tried to diffuse, but I feel better. I feel better as a parent. Like I have not contributed to chaos, right? So I have actually moved it, and I've shown him that I can, model a behavior where I can be angry and I can talk about it in this way, or I can apologize, or he can apologize, and so forth. So that's that. So for the depression, stuff, or anxiety, here's what I can offer, which is this. So I have felt both in my lifetime, to be sure, intensely. What I will do is I notice that I'm blue and I'm really down. And sometimes I have to ask myself, okay, did I eat? Like, do I need to exercise? Because going for a walk for me typically does do a lot for my brain. So that's part of it. But even if after that, if I get out like out the door and I'm like, I don't even want to go for a walk. Like I really don't even want to go for a walk. And I head back in, I'm like, oh, okay, so this isn't the code red, but we now know that like something's wrong. So I kind of go through my own mental checklist, like, what is it? And I go through the categories in my life that I know are important to me. That's where it's going to end up, right? So, what are my buckets, and how is each bucket doing? And I kind of try to narrow in on it. Now, sometimes I say, all right, I'm lonely. I'm lonely. So I'm not married. I'm, not necessarily seeing someone, but the idea is I might be lonely. And I think a lot of people are lonely out there. I've got great friends, but they're dispersed across the globe. And so none of them sometimes are in the hometown. And so if I'm lonely, I think, okay, I'm lonely. Give yourself some grace, and it's okay to be lonely. And what's going to make you happy right now? Like any food you want right now, it's yours. And for me, I eat really healthy. And so for me, that's like a treat, right? So I don't mean binge eat. I just mean for me, like, even just like some fruit, I'd be like, oh, carbs, great, like, but the idea of giving myself some grace and accept the fact I'm lonely right now. It's okay. Why am I lonely? Like, what can I do? Like, what would I like to do? And so I really just ask myself those questions. Or if I'm feeling anxious, I think there's a threat. What's going on? Like, what aspect could it be? Just like when you're over the toilet wondering, what did I eat? When you're anxious, it's like, like what's danger? Like, what am I perceiving as danger? What could I possibly be perceiving as danger? And I go through it, and I try to think about it. But first and foremost, I allow myself to feel. I don't say I shouldn't be depressed because I, I like to consider myself a strong person. If I feel depressed, I think, no, 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 I can't be depressed. Like I've got so much to do. I never do that anymore. Like I'm feeling lonely. I feel a little anxious. I'm going to feel it. There's a reason why my brain put me in this space. I'm going to sit. I'm going to sit with it. I'm going to try and understand it. I'm going to give myself the grace. No one gets to mess with me right now, right? I got to protect this, and I'm going to make sure I get to the bottom of it. And truth be told, for me, it works like a charm every time. So yeah, I might have a few hours of being blue. I might call a friend. And typically, I call a friend that I know really values me, right? And will pick up my phone, who will bail me out of jail, right? So these are people who truly love me, and just that connection really usually is what pulls me out, or they give me the advice that I've been looking for, how to reframe kind of what's going on. So give yourself the grace to. It's okay to feel down. Like I think that we can be made to feel ashamed for feeling a certain way. Like, no, I'm angry. I would like to stew in my anger for a moment, right? I will separate myself off so my goo doesn't get everywhere. But I let me feel this way because I need to understand it. I don't want to feel this way again. I don't like it, but let me understand what caused it. Let me figure out ways of kind of dealing with it and so forth. So, as you can tell, I think, and I'm an internalizer. And so I have a very internal locus of control. I believe I'm in control, right? I can change things. Not everyone is like that. Some people have an external locus of control where they think, you made me this way. You put me in this mood. You need to make me better, right? And so for those people, I say, good luck. Please don't call me, right? So those like, you want to play victim and you think other people are responsible for your lot in life, like, okay, but go somewhere else. Like, that's not. So it's for if you think that you actually have agency and that you can grow, you have an internal locus of control, you can actually be a better human and relate to people better. And you have a choice and you can stay solid with that choice. I think those are the folks who, when they think about things, find themselves in a difficult spot. Don't let it spiral out of control, but give yourself the grace and think about it. And there's a lot of great resources out there on social media. People who have been through this, that sometimes it's really helpful to listen to. You're not alone. A lot of people go through a lot of these things, and finding the people with their story, sometimes it relates, sometimes it doesn't, but it'll help you kind of get through the next hour.
Absolutely, 100% agree with everything you've said. Honestly, I feel like I'm also one of those people with an internal sense of control, and I think a lot of my listeners are a lot of my generation. And I think that's why I thought this episode was important because more than just realizing what emotions are, is how do we kind of react to them, And I think that kind of feeling of not rejecting them outright, because life is hard, emotions are hard, but we feel such a responsibility for them. We feel responsibility of how we interpret them, and so I think well, everything you said is completely true. It's like, how do we just move past what am I feeling? But also, what is this feeling asking of me? Is it asking me to be more gracious for myself? Is anger an emotion which is asking me to have more value for myself and, treat myself? Actually, this person shouldn't be treating me like this, or is it, like, how am maybe I'm doing too much. Maybe I need to relax and, calm down and spend some time with myself, have an ice cream, watch my favorite TV show. These kind of emotions, I feel like they tell us something, and we are sometimes we as a society kind of pathologize them and not try to understand them. So I think it's finding that balance is very important. So yeah, thank you. Everything you said, I completely agree with.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you just said. Yeah, well
I
put.
was just going back and forth. But yeah, I think yeah, it's super important for people to understand how to relate to kind of like emotions. And I think, girl, your work does a very, very good job of like, and you've done it for the whole conversation of diagnosing the problem for us, making us understand where it comes from, but then giving us the tools to kind of tackle that. And like, you have such a, like I've said before, you have such a way of like bringing stories and, and all these things into that kind of explanation where it really grounds the issue for us, where it's not just evolutionary traits, it's not just academic research and academic. It's more like, oh, like I know someone exactly like this, and it explains the behavior in such a beautiful way. So thank you so much for your time today. I've completely enjoyed this. Has been an incredible conversation. I know my listeners are going to get so much value out of this, and hope you enjoyed it too.
I did. Thank you for having me on, Jeffrey. This has been great.